Hi, my name is Brad Baldridge. Today we're going to talk about the FAFSA changes, and I'm going to target this to counselors and other people that kind of understood how it used to work and are interested in understanding a little bit about how the changes will impact how FAFSA and financial aid will work. So if you've never seen FAFSA before, this probably is not the right video. We've got other resources for you. We're going to talk a little bit about how things have changed and what's been better and worse for families based on these new changes. All right, so let's talk about the changes. Well, first of all, why did we change things? So the Department of Ed launched some things, and as part of the recent legislation, that they wanted to make the FAFSA easier to complete because completions have been down, and they're just trying to make it easier and more streamlined for most families. They're also increasing Pell eligibility, so more families will qualify for the Pell, and just more families will qualify for need-based aid in general. So that's some of the goals when they launched it. Now, one of the things that they mentioned is the old FAFSA system was kind of based on the paper system, and they just moved it online. Now they're hoping to start over and build an online experience first, and then maybe add some paper forms if that's what you're going to need. So they're changing some roles. It's going to make it easier for parents and students to work together and some other things as well. All right, so this is a graphic that they released. It talks about the Future Act and the FAFSA Simplification Act. That's where all these changes are coming from. Those laws have been released for a while and signed into law, but now they're just starting to implement them, and we're starting to hear how it's actually going to work. So they estimate about 930,000 more families will qualify for the Pell, and they've got a number of different resources that they are planning on putting out there. Right now, when you go to these places, they don't share a lot of good information. They just kind of circular and say, hey, this is coming. As stuff comes out, we'll release more videos and put more information on our websites so that you have all the up-to-date information in one spot. So one of the big news items right now is that the FAFSA is already delayed. So the FAFSA is normally released October 1st, and families can start working on it. They've already told us that coming this October 1st, it's not going to be ready, and they're likely to release it sometime in December. They haven't given us an exact date yet, so I think a few people are nervous that maybe they won't hit that date either. They also have a timetable where they're releasing a lot of additional information and details this summer, and they're going to do campaigns to educate counselors and families and all the stakeholders. So there's a lot of stuff should be coming out this summer that will clarify what they're building and how it will work. And of course, everything's subject to change, and right now we have relatively limited information. Now, the one area that we do have some decent information is how the new formulas are going to work. So they've released a sample calculation, so we're able to look up how all the new tables and charts are going to work. And now we can compare the new SAI versus the old EFC. So what does that mean? Well, again, if you're familiar, EFC was the way they calculated aid in the past. It was cost of attendance minus your EFC equals your financial need. Well, they've changed the name of the EFC to SAI, or Student Aid Index. Again, trying to make it clearer for parents. Many parents would assume that their EFC is what they're going to pay, and then if a college wasn't able to cover their entire need, then the parent would have to pay more, or the student would have to pay more. And that was confusing. So they're moving away from that terminology and calling it SAI. But SAI in general works the same as the way EFC did. So now it's going to be cost of attendance minus your SAI equals your financial need. Now there's also a lot of changes in the particulars of how you calculate your SAI. And in general, your SAI for most families is going to be a little bit lower than what it was based on the old EFC formulas. So I would recommend for counselors especially that you get updated on what's going on, because of the name changes and what's included and what's not included and how the whole process is changing a little bit as far as the online forms. You're probably going to get a lot of questions and you need to have some answers. So I guess to start with, I would recommend you get some sort of general answer. Something along the lines of, well, things definitely have changed. There will be some winners and losers based on the new formulas and the new methods. I encourage everyone to go ahead and fill out the FAFSA, even if you were not successful in years past. So if you had an older student or you have a student currently in college, just because it didn't work out last year doesn't mean it won't work out this coming year. Again, because the formulas have changed. So some families will be pleasantly surprised, where they may get a little more aid than they did in the past, or they may get aid when they used to not get any aid. So I've been running calculations and trying to figure out how does this work and what kind of impact will it have. And generally what I can tell you is that the SAI is going to be better by about $2,000 to $5,000 for most families. Now that's $2,000 to $5,000 at least. There's a group of families where the SAI will be much better than that because of the new systems they're putting in. But there are a few families where they will perhaps lose. So let's talk about the big winners and big losers here. So the people that are going to win are families that are contributing to retirement plans at work. So in the past, retirement plans didn't help that much for your calculations for need-based aid. Now retirement plans can help quite a bit, and we'll see some examples coming up here. But in general, it needs to be a plan at work. If you're self-employed or a business owner, it may not be as beneficial if it's a plan at your own business. So there's a big asterisk there. Another big area of help will be college or families that receive child support. So in the past, child support was considered income, just like if the parent had earned it. Now it's considered an asset, which changes the math and can be very beneficial for families. And then there's this new idea that they've added this year, which is the automatic maximum Pell and automatic minimum Pell. So many families are going to qualify for these automatic Pells, and that's another one of the big benefits. That's why there's going to be hundreds of thousands of more families qualifying. And who are the losers? Which families actually will not get as much aid? Well, business owners may have a challenge, again, because business owners in the past did not report their business as an asset on the forms, especially if it was a small business and had under 100 employees. Now all businesses are going to be required on the FAFSA. So many business owners are going to include assets that they didn't in the past. So that could be a big change for someone that is in the middle of this or might have multiple children or something. Another big loser would be families that have multiple kids in college that get the multi-student discount. So if you look at the multi-student discount, you used to divide by the number of students that parents were supporting. So if you had multiple kids in college at the same time, it was a pretty big benefit, especially if your income was relatively high. Well, we're losing that multi-student discount. So now no families are going to divide by the number of students. It's all going to be straight up. Now, for a lot of families, the benefits outweigh the losses on these, but there are a few where the losses will be pretty substantial. So how does this minimum and maximum Pell work? This is a new calculation, and the reason that this was created is because it's very hard to, at least in the old says, it was very hard to understand if you're going to qualify for a Pell Grant at all without going through the full process and waiting for the college to figure out your financial aid and actually send you the award. Now we're able to predict how much of a Pell Grant you might be able to receive if you can qualify for either the minimum or the maximum Pell. So how does this work? Well, there's a income based on the number of dependents in your family and the number of parents. So as an example, if you have one parent, 3 dependents or 3 children, you can get the maximum Pell if you have an AGI of 62,438 or less, and you can get a minimum Pell if your AGI is below 90,188. So you just go to the chart and look up the number that's applicable for your family, and then with those numbers you can determine if you're going to qualify for, again, a minimum or a maximum Pell. Now there are some families that will not qualify for minimum or maximum, but they may still get Pell in some form. So there are exceptions to this rule as well. But for a lot of families, once you know your AGI and you're under a line, then you know what you're going to get. It's kind of very quick and easy. Another big advantage to that is for families can plan now. So if you know you're going to be near the line, you might want to move your income by contributing to retirement or doing other things so that you have a shot at maximizing the Pell each year. So how does that maximum work? Well, currently the maximum Pell is $7,395. if you can get under that line of that 62,000, then your SAI is also set to 0, and that will make you likely to qualify for supplemental grants, subsidized loans, and work study as well, so you get more of the federal programs. Now, it's not clear at all what the states and the colleges will do. Again, because this is all new to them, they may have a limited budget and can't necessarily meet all the new demand because of all of the new 0 SAIs that will be coming in. So we're going to have to wait to see how the states and colleges handle it. But the federal government, for sure, will meet the needs if you qualify. And then for the minimum Pell, again, the 90,000, if you're below that line, then you'll get the minimum Pell award, which is currently $800. And again, if the calculations show you qualify for more, well, then you'll get that award instead. But everybody that qualifies for minimum Pell will get at least $800. And again, the maximum and minimum Pell award amounts, that changes every year. So we'll see what the new awards will be for the coming school year when that's released this fall. Now, we talked about these tables where we've got all the various numbers. And again, this is very specifically for 2022, which, of course, for many families, 2022 is already done and there's no way to change things. So either you qualify or you don't. But in addition, parents could be thinking about 2023. So the numbers change each year, and they are increasing right now based on inflation. So because the federal poverty levels go up, so do all the other numbers that are based on that. So you can see here that in 2022, it was 62,000 and 90,000. In 2023, now you're going to have to stay under 67,000 or 97,000. So a pretty substantial increase from one year to the next. And again, that's because inflation is relatively high right now. I don't know if that type of increase will continue or not, but just be aware that you need to look it up each year as it does change. All right, so let's look at some examples. Now we have 3 families that are all about the same. They all earn $82,000. And again, this is a single parent with 3 dependents. And if they earn $82,000, the old EFC was going to come in at about $14,000. The new SAI is $9,000. Now, as I mentioned earlier, one of the winners in this process will be families that contribute to retirement. So if this family was contributing $19,000 towards retirement, that would bring their AGI down to $63,000. And again, AGI is what comes from your taxes, and that helps determine, based on the FAFSA, how your aid works out. That reduces your AGI, so the new SAI would now drop to $2,500, which would increase your Pell to $4,900. Now, if that family knew about the maximum Pell award and they put $1,000 more into retirement, then their AGI would be $62,000. And if you go back and look at the charts, you'll notice that at $62,438, once you're below that number, you are eligible for the maximum Pell. So what happens then? Well, automatically you get the maximum Pell, or $73.95, and your new SAI goes to 0, which equates to having a very large need as well. Now we can take that one step further. So the next batch over here on the other side is the same family, except this time instead of having minimal investments, this family has about $200,000 in assessable assets. So that could be college savings, that could be mutual funds, that could be money in the bank. There's a lot of different things that could be. Now in this situation, what happens is the old EFC is now $25,000 and the new SAI is $20,000. Unless, of course, we do the same contributions to retirement that we talked about earlier. So in that case, that'll down the SAI down to $11,267. Now in both of these situations, because you're still below the $90,000 number, you're eligible for the minimum Pell. But then the magic happens when we get below that $62,000. When we contribute $20,000 to retirement, get below $62,000, again, automatically maximum Pell and 0 SAIs, which is a huge shift from the old EFC of $25,000 all the way to 0. So that can have a huge impact for families. And I think the challenge is most families aren't going to know that they missed it by a mere $1,000. So the difference between the second and third families here of an $800 Pell versus a $7,300 Pell and a SAI of $11,000 versus zero can be huge for many families. So I think that's key, that there's this new system where you cross the line and you may lose big. And then let's take one more very similar example. Now we're saying that the $200,000 is now a business. So in the past, this $82,000 family with a business, the business was not reported, so their old EFC would have been $14,000, similar to the very first slide we looked at, because the business doesn't count. Now, in the new system, the business will count, so now the SAI jumps up to $20,000. So here's an example of a family that actually loses out on the new changes. Their SAI is higher than what their EFC was in the past. Again, because businesses are now assessed, where in the past they were not. But they can still do the contributions to retirement strategies. Now, business owners need to be careful that they are actually able to take advantage of the deductions. But if they do their retirement properly, they may bring their SAI down to $11,000 and then back to zero again, where all of a sudden it doesn't matter and their assets don't have an impact because SAI is automatically zero. So I think that's another important thing to realize, is I'm using the example of $200,000 of assets. But once you're below that $62,000 line, it doesn't matter how much your assets are. They could be millions of dollars. And because you automatically get the maximum Pell and you automatically get an SAI of zero, that overrules whatever the calculations are. So there's many families where if you can just get below the line, it can make a huge difference. All right, that's all we have for this video. We're going to try and keep people updated by updating our website and so forth. So that's all available below this video. You can go to our website at tamingthehighcostofcollege.com/counselors. And all this information is below the video. You can just click on the links as well. But we will release more videos and try and keep updates available on the counselor page on our website as well. You can also sign up for our newsletter. We have a newsletter for counselors. If you want to give us your email address, we will send you updates as we have them. That's all for today. We'll see you in the next video.